I still remember the soft, blurry light of that April morning, filtering through the pale sand-colored curtains Noah had insisted on choosing because they look more elegant when guests come over. I woke up before him, as always. My photo shoots at the downtown studio had made early mornings a habit, even on weekends. Noah was still asleep, lying on his side with his back to me. His hair was slightly tousled, his jaw unshaven, but his face looked like something out of a cologne ad. Ironic, really. That calm exterior had once convinced me I'd chosen the right man to spend my life with. 12 years of knowing each other, 8 years of marriage. I used to believe love meant accepting every messy part of one another. But that morning, what kept my eyes on him wasn't love. It was instinct. His phone buzzed again and again on the nightstand. At first, I didn't pay attention, probably work messages. He was the chief financial officer for my family's media company, and constant busyness was nothing new. But by the 5th time, I frowned. My stomach twisted as I remembered his mother was being treated for high blood pressure. What if something had happened? I'm not the snooping type, but when I reached for the phone just to check if it was family, the sender's name hit me like a slap. Aubrey. My throat tightened. My hand trembled, but I still saw the preview flash on the lock screen. Last night kept me up. Did it do the same to you? I froze like someone had punched me in the chest. Not because I didn't know who Aubrey was. On the contrary, I knew her too well. She was the new creative director at my company, hired less than a year ago, a rising star from a fashion brand in Seattle. 6 years younger than me. Voice light as snowfall and perfectly styled caramel brown curls. Noah had mentioned her a few times, always with lines like, "Aubrey came up with a really clever campaign," or "She's got great taste. You could learn a thing or two." I used to think he was just being professional. I was such a fool. I hesitated. A part of me wanted to put the phone down and pretend I hadn't seen anything, but another part, stronger, sharper, whispered that I needed to know the truth. His phone password was my birthday. What once felt romantic now felt pathetic. The screen lit up and I opened their conversation. The next message read, "I still smell like you. When can I see you again?" My hand dropped. My entire body felt drained. My eyes scanned through hundreds of texts. Photos I should have never seen. Words that made me want to scream and vomit everything I'd eaten the night before. They weren't just sneaking around, they were mocking me, using nicknames to refer to me like I was some clueless fool, and Noah lay there peacefully, completely unaware. I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and turned the shower on full blast. Not to wash away disgust, but to drown the sound of tears I refused to let fall. I don't remember how long I stood under that water. Steam fogged the mirror, but my mind was cold. Numb, really. No sobbing. Only the kind of silence that settles when the heart gives up asking why. I didn't confront Noah that morning. I didn't make coffee or speak a word. I dressed slowly, painted on a quiet face, and walked out as if everything was still intact. Put on some light makeup and left the house as if nothing had happened. Even my reflection in the car's rearview mirror looked like a stranger. In the days that followed, I became an actress. I cooked dinner. I asked about his meetings. I laughed at his stories about the slightly crazy client. I listened to him mention Aubrey in marketing updates. "She brings great energy," or "Her ideas really match current trends." I mentally recorded every word. I still slept next to him every night. I didn't just want to know how long they had betrayed me. I wanted to face all of it. I started with the old laptop Noah used for his personal banking. He wasn't particularly careful. For someone who preached about cybersecurity at work, he reused his Netflix password. I got into his email, then his iCloud. Texts, images, FaceTime calls, hotel bookings, online orders. It was a mountain of evidence. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This had been going on far longer than I imagined. Once while I was shooting a wedding in Nashville, they stayed at a downtown hotel with a suite that had a glass wall bathtub. I remembered because Noah sent me a photo of room service dinner, and I'd noticed a strange beige hand towel in the background. I'd assumed it was hotel decor. I began backing up everything. stored it on a hard drive with triple punctual protection. I even installed a mini GPS tracker under his driver's seat and a tiny camera in our garage. I bought a leather notebook, not to journal, but to strategize. My birthday would be in early September. We'd planned to celebrate our 10th anniversary at the same time. The venue? A resort overlooking Lake Ravenwood, where Noah had once proposed with a ring he claimed was his mother's heirloom. I later learned she never owned that ring. The deposit was paid, the guest list drafted, college friends, co-workers, family. Aubrey's name was on it. At first I wanted to cross her off, but then I thought, why not invite her? I started refining the script. Not for revenge, but for revelation. I created a folder on my computer titled Last Project. Inside were subfolders, selected photos, key text excerpts, a detailed timeline, joint credit card receipts, purchases I never received. I even contacted our family attorney, Miranda Doyle, the one who'd handled my father's real estate contracts. I met her at a cafe near Midtown and laid it all out. Divorce documents, asset division plans, Noah's employment records. "Melanie," she said slowly, "are you sure you want to go through with this?" Every message they exchanged was a knife in me. "I'm just gathering all the blades and handing them back." She didn't ask more, she simply nodded and began writing. At home, Noah acted sweet. Some nights, he even cooked dinner. Asked about my schedule, suggested we start planning for a baby next year. I smiled. I played my part so well, even I was starting to feel uneasy. Only one person seemed to sense something. My mother. She called and asked, "Are you okay? Your voice sounds different lately." "I'm just planning a party no one will forget," I said, keeping my tone light. For the next month, I lived behind a carefully carved mask. I invited Aubrey to the upcoming event with effortless charm. "We'll be doing a little slideshow," I smiled, my fingers brushing her wrist. "Honestly, I'd love for you to be there. You've been such a big part of this recent chapter." Her eyes flickered with something hard to read. A flash of suspicion, maybe doubt? But then she smiled back. "I'll be there, it's an honor." I stayed calm, not a hint of hesitation. From that moment on, every conversation between the three of us at the office felt like a silent performance. Noah still talked about work, still made me laugh with the same old college stories. And me? I laughed, tilted my head at just the right moments, even texted him to ask what he wanted for dinner. I watched them. The way Aubrey lightly touched his shoulder as she passed, the way Noah leaned in when she said something funny, the way they shared those fleeting glances during meetings, seemingly harmless, but not to me. I started to resent the innocence I once had. I recalled the signs. All of them had been right there. I just refused to see. The unfamiliar perfume that lingered on his shirt collar. The hotel receipt I once found in his wallet, dismissed with a casual partner networking event. The time I had the flu and stayed home, and Aubrey arrived early for a meeting. Noah had accidentally given her a ride because it was raining and she didn't bring an umbrella. They were gone for 3 hours, even though the office and her place were only 8 miles apart. I had even laundered Aubrey's coat, one she'd borrowed during last year's Christmas party. Now I remembered how she pulled back slightly when I approached, the quick glance Noah shot her, everything was suddenly clear. I wasn't going to let myself fall apart again. I commissioned a gown from a boutique designer in New York, jet black, one shoulder, with cuts bolder than anything I had ever worn. I was no longer the wife in modest floral midi dresses and kitten heels meant to please her in-laws. I intended to walk into that party like a quiet storm. Subtle, but unstoppable. The dress arrived via special delivery, wrapped in a velvet bag, with a handwritten note. "We hope you wear this for a moment no one will forget." I hid it downstairs, behind the Christmas decor boxes, a spot Noah would never dig into. He didn't even know there was a hidden zipper compartment there. At the same time, I met again with Miranda, the attorney. She had completed the divorce paperwork, a full list of individual and joint assets, and prepared legal documents to revoke Noah's access to the company's internal systems. "I want everything to go into effect right after the party," I said firmly. "He should not walk into the office the next day." Melanie, are you sure about making this all so public? She asked, her eyes deep. Not judging, just making sure I was truly ready. They humiliated me behind closed doors. I just want to show the truth to the very people they've deceived. Then I won't stop you, she replied, her face sharpening into the same icy determination I remembered from childhood, back when I watched her win high-profile corporate lawsuits. 3 days before the party, I practiced standing in front of the mirror, training myself to hold Noah's gaze without blinking. I wrote the opening lines of my speech on a sticky note and stuck it to the bathroom mirror, repeating it until I memorized every word. Each night I lay next to him, listening to him talk about our future. I smiled, then turned away so he wouldn't see how cold my eyes had become. That afternoon, I arrived at the hotel an hour earlier than planned. The pre-party setting was quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath before a storm. The hotel sat on a tree-lined road just outside Portland, the same place Noah had gotten down on one knee 8 years ago. On this very rooftop, he had once said, "We'll never keep secrets from each other." Now that sentence echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. I walked into the event hall wearing the black gown, cut to perfection along every curve. Sharp heels, loosely pinned hair, makeup darker than usual. Just enough to make me look like someone else. Someone Noah had never truly understood. When he walked in, I was setting my wine glass down on the bar, adjusting everything to flawless precision. Noah froze when he saw me. His eyes widened, stunned, as if seeing someone he couldn't quite recognize. "Mel, you look different," he said, voice slightly hoarse. Stepping closer. In a really, really beautiful way. He placed his hand on my waist, an old habit, but this time I didn't lean in. I simply turned my face and smiled. "Thank you," I said. "I figured tonight should be a little more special." He leaned in, his breath brushing my ear. "If no one notices, maybe we slip out early." I stepped back slightly. "Not yet. The main course hasn't been served," I said, locking eyes with him. "I put a lot of thought into tonight's surprise." Noah gave a nervous chuckle. He wasn't used to me saying something he couldn't decode. Guests began arriving. College friends, former co-workers, family members, and a few board members my father had invited. Everyone smiled, congratulated us, snapped pictures in front of the gold-lettered backdrop. Melanie and Noah, a decade together. I bowed and thanked each one. My feet ached from the new heels, but I stood tall. The pain in my legs was nothing compared to what my heart had endured. 7:30, the glass doors slid open. She walked in. Aubrey. A fitted red dress, bare shoulders, matching lipstick. Loose waves like she'd stepped out of a fashion spread. In her hand, a small, carefully wrapped gift box. She walked straight toward us, heels tapping out deliberate beats. "Noah? Melanie?" she smiled, her eyes quickly scanning my look. A brief moment, barely there. But I caught it, a flicker of caution. "Congratulations to you both," she said, handing me the gift. "Tonight's stunning, just like the two of you." I took the box, not heavy, maybe wine or an expensive perfume. I set it down on a nearby table, then gently placed my hand on her shoulder so naturally that Aubrey didn't have time to flinch. "Come," I said. "I want to give you a little tour, introduce you to everyone." She stiffened just a bit, but didn't step back. I led Aubrey through the crowd, introducing her to each guest with a sweet, practiced tone. "This is Aubrey, the talented creative director at my company, and also a very important part of our recent journey." Everyone nodded politely and smiled, but I watched her eyes, the way her hand tightened around her wine glass, and the flicker of confusion that crossed her face for just a moment. When I returned to my place beside Noah, I noticed the sweat gathering on his forehead. His whiskey glass was nearly empty. He was starting to feel uneasy, and quietly I told myself, "Good, it's still early, Noah." And this was only the beginning. 8:15, the atmosphere in the banquet hall was at its warmest, slightly buzzing with tipsy joy. Cocktails shimmered under the golden lights, laughter echoed throughout the room, and every toast sounded sincerely cheerful. I held up my wine glass, lightly tapped it with my wedding ring still on my finger. One clear chime. then another. Soon, the room fell silent. I stepped onto the stage. The mic was already prepared, a soft spotlight glowing around me. My heartbeat was steady, not a single beat off. I'd been waiting for this moment for the past 3 months. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began, my voice firm yet even. 10 years is no small number, and I thought, what could be more meaningful than a short slideshow of the love story Noah and I built together? A light round of applause followed. Noah smiled and raised his glass. Aubrey, seated 3 tables away, had her arms crossed and her lips pressed tighter than usual. I signaled the AV team to start the video. The large screen behind me lit up. It opened with photos from the early days. Us at Cannon Beach, hair blown wild by the wind. Then our wedding in a sunlit garden. Our honeymoon in Colorado, where I still believed I was the luckiest woman in the world. The room quieted. Some guests wiped tears. Others smiled at the memories. Then the footage changed. A new photo appeared. Noah wearing a gray dress shirt sitting at a desk in my company's office. Behind him, my family's brand logo glowed clearly. My voice continued even and calm. About a year ago, Noah started working more closely with a new member of our creative team. The screen flipped to a photo of Aubrey, at a year-end event, wineglass in hand, eyes turned in a proud, elegant angle. That was when I stopped being part of the important conversations, I said. And when I began listening to the signs I had ignored for too long. The next slide appeared, a screenshot of a message. A bold line of text read, "She suspects nothing. The perfect model wife you needed to fool everyone." The hall went dead silent. Some guests exchanged looks, others turned to Noah. He sat frozen, pale-faced, blinking like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "What you're seeing is a glimpse," barely scratching the surface of what I found, I continued. "I've removed the explicit ones, but if anyone still has doubts, I have full copies." The slideshow kept playing, hotel receipts from Seattle that matched dates I was on business trips, blurry selfies of them in elevators, grainy but undeniable. Then came the mockery. Comments about my hair, my job, even the apartment Noah and I once proudly designed together. I looked up at Noah. His face was soaked with sweat. Aubrey had her head bowed, unable to meet a single gaze. The wine in front of her sat untouched, her hand trembling slightly. I stayed silent for 3 months just to reach this moment, the day I wanted everyone to hear the truth from me. No distortions, no excuses. I turned to the hotel staff. They stepped forward, carrying a thick envelope sealed securely. I opened it in front of everyone. "This is the divorce paperwork," I said, voice steady. "And the official document terminating Noah's position at my family's company. His system access was revoked this morning." I met his eyes, every word deliberate, sharp enough to leave a mark. "Congratulations, Noah, and thank you for the most unforgettable birthday gift I've ever received." A wave of murmurs filled the room. I glanced across the space. The very place that once held my wedding day laughter, now reflecting a silence as cold as ice. Then I stepped down from the stage. I walked past Noah, the man who had once been my whole world, now just a fading silhouette collapsing in the crowd. That night, I left the hotel in a black SUV parked behind the lot, arranged by Miranda. I went straight to the loft apartment on the east side of the city, a raw industrial space with exposed brick walls and tall glass windows overlooking the river. I had rented it 2 months earlier under the name of my photography company. No one knew where I was, and I intended to keep it that way. Noah started calling after 2 days. "Link. Mel, please, let me explain." I blocked his number. On day 3, flowers began arriving at my studio. First white roses, then handwritten letters in black ink, his handwriting shaky like a schoolboy's. "I ruined everything. You're the only one I've ever truly loved." I didn't need confessions. I needed peace. A week later, he stood outside my parents' house, his coat wrinkled, eyes dark and sunken. My mother called me, voice uneasy. "Don't you want to meet and end things properly?" "I already did, Mom, in front of everyone." Noah didn't know I'd moved out. No one in the family told him. He left after standing in the rain for over an hour, leaving a soaked bouquet blown to the curb by the wind. Aubrey resigned the first Monday after the party. No one saw her again. I heard she moved to Chicago to work at another media company. Someone in HR told me her resignation email was a single sentence. I no longer align with the company's direction. Rumors spread like wildfire, but no one dared mention Noah or Aubrey in front of me again. And then the company began to shake. Finances stalled, some joint ventures pulled out, the press started poking around. My name, my father's name, and Hartley Media had long been tied to the image of a picture-perfect marriage. Now it was an internal scandal made public. My father, Everett Hartley, was stunned, but he didn't blame me. One afternoon he came to see me at the studio. I placed my trust in the wrong person, he said, sinking into the wooden chair, rubbing his forehead wearily. Not in you, in my son-in-law. You could help, he added. The company needs someone to handle the finances, at least temporarily. My eyes met his, steady at first, then faltering for a beat. I'm not asking you to forgive, I'm just asking you to remember. You carry the Hartley blood. The next day I returned to the company. I learned how to read financial reports. I didn't avoid board meetings. I didn't shy away from hard questions. I started seeing a different version of myself. Sharper, more decisive, far stronger than the woman I used to be. When Noah was officially removed from the board of directors, he sent one last message. You won, but are you happy? I let the message sit unread. Then I opened the loft window, breathed in the river breeze of late afternoon, and smiled. It wasn't victory I savored, but the quiet strength of having rebuilt myself from ruin. My first photography exhibition opened on a Friday evening in early fall, at a small gallery on Taylor Street that once showcased works by local independent photographers. The theme was surfaces and depths. A simple name, but it carried everything I wanted to say. No more glossy, color-corrected images for client albums. No more wedding smiles or picture-perfect family portraits, pretending there had never been tension. These photos were raw, unfiltered, unposed, sometimes even uncomfortable to look at. An elderly man hunched at a bus stop at sunset. A woman with tearful eyes gripping a hospital railing. A couple turned away from each other at a dinner table with untouched entrees. Each one captured in moments no one expected to be seen. And it was in those moments I realized, pain doesn't have to be hidden to be meaningful. That evening my parents arrived early. My mother wore a blue shawl, hugging me tightly. My father stood behind her, quietly observing the framed photos on the wall. I didn't know you carried so much, he said after a long pause. And I never expected I had trusted the wrong person so deeply. You don't need to feel guilty. I do, he sighed. I brought Noah into the company, placed him beside you, praised him constantly. I used to think staying silent was how I protected everything, I replied. Now I understand. Truth, even when it's ugly, is better than a beautiful lie. His eyes reddened slightly, but his voice stayed firm. I'm proud of you. Midway through the exhibition, as I was speaking to a guest from a local photography magazine, I heard a quiet voice behind me. Melanie? I turned around. It was Zoe. She hovered near the entrance, fingers curled around a glass of water, tension flickering across her face. She used to be Aubrey's assistant. I remembered clearly the way she looked when she walked Aubrey out of the office that final day. She hadn't spoken to me then, just bowed and disappeared. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced, she said softly. I saw the feature about your exhibit and I wanted to see it in person. I nodded, letting her step closer. I knew about them, Zoe said, her voice trembling. Not everything, but enough. I was asked to send emails for them, book hotel rooms, and I knew exactly what I was doing. At the time, I thought I was just an employee. I didn't have the right to question anything. But after that party, I realized silence is its own kind of complicity. I stayed quiet. I wanted her to finish. I'm sorry, she repeated. Not because I want forgiveness, but because I needed to say it, so I can move forward and be better. I placed a hand on her shoulder gently, just enough to ease her fear. Zoe, everyone stumbles. What matters is whether you choose to get back up and go in a different direction. "You're not angry at me?" she asked, her eyes wet. "I haven't forgotten. But I won't carry that anger through the rest of my life. I forgive you, not to ease your conscience, but to free my own." 1 year later, my 33rd birthday fell on a Saturday. The sun was mild, with a breeze from the East Marina. I had moved on from the loft months ago. After 6 months, I found a small 2-story home near Forest Ridge Park, with a backyard big enough for lavender and summer BBQs. The birthday party that year had just over 10 guests. My parents, a few close friends from art school, colleagues from my new creative team at the company, and Miranda, the lawyer who had walked this road with me. "Melanie, do you have a wish?" my mother asked as I stood before the small strawberry frosted cake, candle in hand. "I already gave myself that wish last year," I said, looking at her. "A chance to start over. And I took it, Mom." Someone clapped. Evan raised his wine glass and gave it a gentle swirl. I blew out the candle. I didn't wish for anything. After the party, I cleaned up with my parents. My mother folded the tablecloth, my father gathered the plastic cups and sorted them into the recycling bin. They didn't ask about Noah. No one mentioned Aubrey. No one brought it up. Not out of worry, but because they sensed I'd already made peace with it. As guests left, Miranda lingered behind. She wore a long cardigan, cradling a half-drunk bottle of wine. "Melanie," she said, her gaze drifting toward the backyard where the light still twinkled, "this party feels different." She gently took my hand. "You've walked a path most people would never dare." I gave her a light, unburdened smile. After she left, I returned to the porch, poured myself another glass of wine. I turned off my phone notifications. I curled into the rattan chair, looking up at the night sky, bleeding city light. The highway traffic below looked like trails of living ink. I didn't think about Noah anymore. His last message was 8 months ago. I never replied. Eventually, he stopped sending them. I didn't think about Aubrey either. I heard she quit her job in Chicago. That was her business. As for me, I still take photos. And I've started writing. Not a memoir, but small entries. About the woman I once was. And the woman I'm becoming. That version of me, the one who staged a celebration just to reveal betrayal, belongs to the past. I don't flinch at the truth now. I see it clearly, even when it dresses itself in tenderness. Melanie's story isn't just about escaping betrayal. It's a testament to the quiet power that comes when a woman dares to face the truth and write her own fate. From someone who once stayed silent to keep the peace, she learned to choose herself instead of sacrificing for a marriage built on illusion. In the rubble, she didn't just rise, she moved forward with clarity, dignity, and strength no one could take away. What do you think about Melanie's choice? Would you have done the same if it were you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more emotional, real-life stories and powerful lessons about family.